Well, welcome back, everybody. I see myself on television, so I know we're ready to go. Welcome back to part of the live broadcast from Virtual's Best Practices in Education conference. To all those watching on live stream and at the website, and the great conference it's been. I'm here to moderate, in world as it were, a panel which we'll be coming to shortly. It's the panel really for the finalists of the great Machinima competition. So we have 6 films to show you, and we will find out, of course, who the winner is at the award ceremony on Saturday. But when we've shown you the 6 films, we're then going to, I'm going to disappear to the stage behind me, and we're just going to sort of talk to the Machinima makers responsible for the films about Machinima, their films, and all such things, really, especially related to education, of course, because that's why we're here. So, for those of you in world, I really should say ladies, gentlemen, and assorted avatars, shouldn't I? You will notice that a little bit behind me where the panelists are waiting, there is a large screen. And if you click on that screen, you will be able to see the videos for the next 23 minutes that we're going to be talking about. There is also a little Virtual's Best Practices icon above that, which will take you to the website where the films are running as well, just in case you have any problems with in-world media. But to get us going, let's actually see the 6 major submissions for the Education Machinima. And at this point, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Dusa, who's at the channel, who's about to put them live.
I often teach a second job at a community college at night to be able to afford what a single mom with no child support needs to pay for. And my students there were once like the students I teach during the day at a high school. These high school students repeatedly blow off school because they are too busy being cool. And when I talk with my night students about how frustrating my day students can be, they say they would like to talk to my day students. This poem is a collection of some of the things they would like to tell my high school students.
I was cool. So cool. Way too cool. Now I'm cold, 'cause I flunked out of school, and I'm old. I ain't cool no more. It don't pay, and the real life is all about paying. You huff and you puff, and you sniff and you snort, and you get a girl or 2 pregnant, and then what? You a daddy, that's what, and you gotta pay. And you can dance your way around it for a while and try this and that to get by. But that's all you're doing, getting by. And it sucks. I want all that them other people got. And if I try to get it the fast way, I end up going to jail without going past go. And if I just keep working minimum wage jobs, I don't even make it to go. So now I gotta do it the slow way. Real slow. I work a shit job, then I come to school at night. And you don't know what tired is till you seriously think that the next moment you might drop to the floor and die the death of the too tired. And that would be the best part of the day. Hell, the best part of your year. Then you go home and you're supposed to study. But the babies cry and their diapers is wet, and your girl tells you,
Hell, sucker, you change 'em.
this is going to take me years. Years and years. And there ain't no guarantee that I'll make it. But I could have, if I would have, been something other than a cool kid. Don't get drunk. Drop that lid. Take it from me, a formerly cool kid.
How to perform an activity in the virtual retail world. Select the activity, which is number 1. Blue note card will appear. Accept this and proceed to read the instructions. First activity, activity 1, ask to inform the customer that there are delays in the cash register operation. You have 3 answers to select from. Select the most correct one. Highlight that text and copy, which is Ctrl-C, and use your chat function at the bottom left corner of your screen and paste the text, which is Ctrl-V. Press enter to let the customer know. Supervisor Tom will say, well done, if you selected the right answer.
video of Benjamin Britten as a composer who wrote Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra. And the conductor in this video, Michael Tilson Thomas, so you can look at his facial expressions as well and make a note of that. And we will be listening to... On the other slide? Yes, to the next slide, on the very bottom. And then we will be listening to the London Symphony Orchestra and see if we can actually recognize some of the instruments that we just talked about and we just learned about.
The faces of the triangular prism. Who remembers how many faces do we count? 1, 2, 3, and what? Are they? They are only 3. Very good. Very good. Only 3 faces.
For example, Japanese people didn't invent many of the things on this table. What do you think? What do you think we did not invent?
Donuts.
Oh, then yes, donuts, exactly. We did not invent. So, if we did not invent, we use the same pronunciation. Similar, I would say. Okay? Yeah, it's easy, right? So I pronounce Japanese version of donuts. Ready?
Yeah.
Donuts.
Donuts.
Again, donuts.
Donuts.
First you have fun in the inventory and you click the cards and put it in front of you, okay? Let's see who got most of them.
Someone wear that on the head.
Well, good job. Sandra have already put 2, 3. Wow.
Where is the card?
That's in the inventory and under the objects, folder objects.
So now we are walking. Let's walk to the rope bridge. Oh, some of you are already on it. And what? Okay, Sophia, what do you see on the rope bridge? What is it? It's okay, class, everybody together. It's a life preserver.
It's a life preserver. In this room, can you see the whirling Santa Claus in the middle of the room?
Yep.
Yeah, and now try, if you touch the Santa Claus, he can talk with you.
Oh, really? Ooh, how cool.
And now let's greet Santa and say Merry Christmas to him.
Oh, look at it. Merry Christmas. Oh.
First, let me introduce the civic learning space to all of you, and you can go around the whole space. There are 3 independent areas in the learning space as the road signs have shown. You can see knowledge art in the right hand, a circle of the research center with a main building which is red opposite to the flags, and a big blue building next to it, besides a learning studio, which is just behind the research center and lies in the other end of the street. The 8 characters is means benevolence, loyalty, ceremony, wisdom, honest, faithful, piety, and pardon. And these 8 principles are always regarded as the principles that young people or all the young children or older people should follow in China.
So we can watch they dance. Yeah. Very interesting.
Okay, you watch us. It's like a bone dance.
Cane farming decisions can be difficult in our highly variable climate. How will you decide on your harvesting strategies for the crushing season? Let's see how this group of likely lads discuss the season ahead.
Morning guys, nice to see the weather's cooling up a bit prior to the crushing. Should bump our CCS up a bit.
You bet, mate. Reckon it was close to frost on the flat below our place this morning. Early in the season to be that cool.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Hey, the crushing starts in a couple of weeks. Are you guys up to speed with your maintenance and ready to go?
We're close to being ready, but we need some parts for our haul-out, which is being held up in transit. Until we can get them, we can't finish the job. We should be right by the time it's our turn in the group to cut, though.
We're okay. We only had some minor repairs after last season and are ready to go. We are cutting first in our group, and provided the weather holds, we'll be alright to go as soon as the mill gives us the green light.
Now you mentioned the weather, have you seen the forecast for the start of the crushing?
Yeah, I've been checking out the USQ monthly climate update. I think we're coming out of a wet period in the cycle, the La Nina I think they call it. The current outlook is that it might be a bit wetter than normal in the next couple of months.
That's great. The last thing we need is another disaster like 2010. The back end of that year was really wet and we ended up with a lot of standover cane we couldn't get off.
Yeah, I agree. Given the forecast, I'm going to be a bit cautious this year and harvest some of my wetter blocks as soon as I can at the start of the crush, so I'm not caught at the back end.
Sounds like a plan, Jack. Not putting all your eggs in one basket and hedging your bets a bit.
Yeah, that's right. And the longer-term outlook for the spring and early summer is that it might be a bit drier than normal. So some of the wetter blocks I leave might hang on longer for the end of the crushing.
So, Jack, you're not putting too much faith in those forecasts, are you?
Well, I reckon it's better than flipping a coin. At certain times, a forecast can give a strong indication of the chances of rainfall being above or below average, or even how likely it might be to be very high or very low. They develop these forecasts using probability, so as long as you understand that and think about your own attitude to risk, you can make an informed decision.
So where do we get this information you've tapped into?
I access it through the USQ website. Actually, I've brought the last one up with me, so we can have a yarn about it if you like. Now you've heard the update, are you going to do anything differently at home, or will you wait for the next monthly update to see how the season's progressing and what the new outlook is saying?
So there we are, folks. The 6 finalists in this year's Education Machinima, and we'll be finding out the winner, if that's the right word, on Saturday at the awards ceremony. So welcome back, everybody. For those of you actually watching live on our television broadcast, I would add that I'm monitoring the chat there. So if you have any questions as we go on for the panelists today, do put them in there and I'll be able to see them to, hopefully, if we have time, pass them on to my guests, as it were. So we have two of the 6 clips there were by the same person. They were in no particular order, I hasten to add, though I like the fact we had a sort of very lightweight one at the end there, the cool kid. But I have all the machinima makers involved sitting here beside me in Second Life now so that we can have a little chat about their work and machinima in general. I'm going to introduce them in order, starting on what I guess is my right-hand side. We have Nova Saunders. Welcome, Nova.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing absolutely fine. At least as fine as we both are, I think. Right, next to Nova, I have Barbara Novelli. Welcome, Barbara.
Hi, hello.
And next to Barbara, we have Helen Frack at the very end there. So, hi, Helen.
Hi, Mel.
Glad to see you're back. Helen experienced a Second Life crash. I'm sure you know what that means, but she's made it back just in time. You know what Linden Labs are like for logging us out unexpectedly. Next to me, on my left-hand side, as I'm speaking to you, we have Bert Matchman. Welcome, Bert.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me. Thank you very much.
Fine. A bit muffled on your voice there, so if you can maybe be a bit closer to mic, but we'll move back to you in a minute. And finally, at the far end, next to Bert, we have Sandrine Han.
Hi, everyone. Sorry.
Hi there. Welcome to the panel, all of you. Now, I deal with a lot of machinima, actually. We show a hell of a lot of it every week on the web. But these, of course, are very particular machinima with an educational focus. And you've all been sort of shortlisted for the, well, whatever happens on Saturday. I thought the best place to start this conversation would be to actually approach each of you individually first. And sort of, it sounds like a tall order, but sort of maybe you could tell me sort of generally what you've been trying to achieve with the machinima itself. And of course, watching them, they're all very varied. There's no two similar machinima in there, really. So let me start with you, Nova.
Okay. Well, as the video implies, we're trying to promote archaeology to the virtual platform to bring more public awareness and maybe even encourage some more students into the field.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
So, indeed. I mean, it's very interesting that this the theme of this year's conference here is beyond the stage, and of course, when we're looking at machinima, we are very much thinking of a stage, aren't we? It's like film, but film itself is a stage. So are you, have you been, how have you been distributing that, for example? You've had it on YouTube, haven't you? And what sort of audience are you after with it?
Well, the schools are going to be using it as well. And the government agencies that I work with are also distributing it. So it's more or less a public service thing that I'm doing with this video, as well as an educational service, I believe.
Yes, indeed. I think so. One would certainly hope so. Well, let me move over to Barbara and ask you the same question, Barbara, if I may. Sort of, what were you trying to achieve, firstly, in a very general sense, with the video, the machinima?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I wanted to learn to make machinima more, so I was experimenting with different things you can do. And Secondly, I wanted to show teachers and students some of what can be done with Machinima. And finally, of course, it has a point for some of my students, high school students, who are, should we say, reluctant learners. I teach both at a high school and at a community college, and I teach future TESOL teachers. So in answer to your distribution question, I used this film with my ESL students. I used this with my TESOL training students who are going for a TESOL certificate. And I also use it for my machinima classes because I also teach students to make machinimas.
Oh, very good indeed. Helen.
Well, now we're really going beyond the stage with our machinima. What we're trying to do is to teach sugarcane farmers how to use climate information. I work with a group called the Australian Centre for Sustainable Catchments, and what they do is find out climate information and monitor climate change. And what we're trying to do is encourage farmers to use this information to change their cropping practices and things like that. So a different kind of audience, I guess, to the other people here.
Well, it never starts just to me, I go through a lot of machinima, and obviously a lot of them are educational, but some of them are general, but other ones are very, very pitched, like yours is, to a specific audience. So, it really depends what you're involved in. If you have there was one by Pookie Amsterdam recently that I think is showing as part of this, which was all about learning to tackle mosquitoes, for example, in San Francisco. And that's fairly niche sort of audience, but a wonderful machinima, for example. So doing a wonderful job there. Okay, let me switch over the other side. I'll go first with Sandrine. So what were you trying to achieve principally in making that film?
For us, because I'm in education department, so I would like to use this machinima to introduce virtual world to not only higher education, but also to K through 12. So the place we use is not Second Life. We have our own open sim, and this open sim is also open to the K through 12 teachers that they can apply and they can use this land for free. I just wanted to promote this virtual world to let the teachers know the possibility of what they can do in this virtual world. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's a task that we all face. Really, is using virtual worlds to promote the various things we're doing over and beyond machinima itself. And of course, machinima is a great way for people to look on the web, for example, or as a venue, and actually see what is possible and get a sense of what virtual worlds can do. Let me move to Bert. What were you trying to achieve, Bert?
Yes, thank you. Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yes, that's good improvement.
Excellent. Thank you for inviting me and having two videos which I made with my son. He's 12 years old. So the story is actually passing the message to the younger generation to continue and start actually using the 3D environment for learning. So he's learning stuff for himself, for his projects, and for his schooling as well. My goal for with the first video was to actually make a video tutorial for my current students. This is related to Certificate 2 in Retail Services. What I do, I actually develop and design, let's say, online e-learning courses. And this time I use 3D World and made videos to actually help students to achieve those qualifications. So it's related to retail, business, IT, and hospitality as well. So that's the first one, which is a real-time interactive 3D virtual retail world. And the second one is a video related to WIDE. WIDE is actually a great group of academics and developers who are actually teaching as well as developing 3D worlds for education. So they actually have hypergrid based on OpenStream for education in biology, archaeology, and health. So I'm really grateful that I am part of that group, which is right. We have 2 posters actually in the poster area of this conference, so please visit those 2 as well.
Okay, great. I think your voice is still a wee bit muffled, but I could pick up most of that. So I think we'll come back to sort of focus. I know that most people in the audience here, and probably watching on the TV for that matter, will know what machinima is. It's short for machine cinema, and for the most part, the kind of machinima we're talking about here today is what we call inhabited machinima, where you're actually watching real life actors and performers, albeit in their avatar costumes, so to speak, recreating something that is very much like a real world film. I'd like to actually talk just a little bit about your techniques. I'm sure other educators here are quite curious. I'm going to start with you, Helen, because I think, if I'm right, your machinima wasn't actually filmed in a virtual world, was it? It looked like it was created in standalone machinima softwares.
No, that's not true, actually, Mel.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It was filmed in Second Life.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, some great camera shots then. I apologize. I really had the feeling it might have been done elsewhere.
No, it was shot in the sky above USQ Island, which is in Second Life, and it's just testimony to the great skills of Top Dingo, who made this for us, I think.
Yeah, yes, indeed. I mean, I actually found that a fascinating video. It's completely out of my field, of course, but it's just, the whole production looked very good, and I don't know why I thought that it might have had a little bit of a bit done in another piece of software. Okay, that gives me a cue to go back to, was it you, Sandrine, who said that you filmed in OpenSim?
Yeah, this machinima is fully in OpenSim, so my students, their builds and their avatars are pretty primitive compared with Second Life, so yeah, that's...
Well, I'm actually very fond of OpenSim, and especially the hypergrid, of course, because for those who don't know, there are a lot of small installations that comprise OpenSim, and some big ones too, but for most of them, you can sort of hypergrid between them, much like teleporting in Second Life, so they come to quite a size at the end of the day. But I do know a lot of people say to me that the facilities available to them and the control that they've got available in OpenSim far exceeds Second Life, despite the fact that in some ways, maybe the realism of the graphics and stuff is still a bit behind. Do you exclusively use OpenSim, or do you come in here or elsewhere?
Actually, I start with Second Life, of course, and after that, I found there are some content in Second Life is not really suitable for K-12 students. As an educator, I'm really concerning about the visual, a lot of elements that is happening in Second Life. Therefore, I create a standalone OpenSim, so educators doesn't need to worry about the student will teleport it to Second Life, and then they will only be in a so-called safe place in that OpenSim.
Right. Let me ask the rest of you, actually. Bert, Nova, and Barbara, fairly obviously in Second Life there, I think. Do you actually work on a diverse number of platforms, or just Second Life? Let's start with Bert.
Sorry, is it a question for me?
Oh, yes, yeah. I was just asking you if you just work in Second Life, or whether you work with other platforms too when you're creating machinima.
Well, both of them are actually created in OpenStream. So the first one is actually hosted on another provider. platform, which is the outsourced technicalities and IT services. But the second one is actually hosted on the wide OpenStream, their own server. So it's the OpenStream platform, which is actually created for the educational purposes. So we actually teach, we actually deliver assessments, we assess students, we actually test students as well.
Okay. Nova, do you work on multiple platforms?
Well, to be honest with you, I started the island on Second Life. And then after the university decided they didn't want to renew the lease, a group of the other professors and I did a grid called the Vibe Grid, which is an open sim grid. And we have just expanded and gone way past what we started here. So I'm very happy to be an open simmer.
Yes. I wonder, I don't know where you know this, but coincidentally on the first day of this conference, Linden Labs announced that they're halving the prices for educators again. I think they're worried they've all run off, but there are certainly some mammoth expansions taking place in OpenSim. Barbara, how about you?
So far, I've only used Second Life, and I've invested so much time and energy into creating games and lessons for ESL teachers, and in addition to all the machinimas, that I probably won't be leaving quickly.
Yes. When it comes to making a fully formed machinima, as it were, I mean, you sort of stand around in OpenSim and various other places, and I've got to admit, it's not the easiest of things to find skins or costumes for your characters. You end up coming back to Second Life to go shopping, which is really what Second Life seems to be about. Okay, let's sort of open the discussion a bit now, over and beyond your own particular projects. The way forward for machinima, as I guess in this instance, as a particular, as an educational tool. All of you sort of said in what you're trying to achieve, there was a sort of commonality there. The idea was to actually get something out to show people what is possible. Do you think the audience for machinima and the prospects for doing more and more things in machinima is looking good? Let's start, just coming at random here really, but let's start with Helen to get the rhythm going, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I think that while real filming is still so expensive, I think machinima still will be a really good option for us. The reason we turn to machinima is because it costs a lot of money. Australia's big, and it costs a lot of money to fly people across the country to where the sugarcane fields are, and to have cameras and equipment and stuff there. So that's why we decided to go with machinima. So I think there will be an audience while those costs are still high, and with money tightening, that's going to be an issue for a while yet.
It's a very old thing I've noticed, and that is that machinima, I mean, Google, for example, have machinima.com, is it now? Or they certainly have machinima channels that are proving very popular, but I'm not sure where they are machinima to me. They're all sort of programs about games and being inside the games and, watch me while I read this something or other in somewhere, But certainly I plow through a lot of machinima every week, and it is more and more every week. So, I'm absolutely certain that it is a growing art form, so to speak. How do you feel, Barbara?
Well, I certainly hope it's growing. I really want to see other teachers and students making machinima. I think it's an amazing way to immerse students in learning English as a second language, to have them collaborate with students from all over the world, where the only way they can communicate is in English, and they make these incredible short machinimas.
I was going to come to that, actually. The enthusiasm amongst the students themselves, do they latch on to the idea of machinima as something expressive that they're keen to do.
Well, my experience has certainly been once the students have seen my machinimas, they want to make them. And it's a semester-long course for them.
Right, and they lead by example, of course. I mean, you actually bring up a very good point, because Helen mentioned that, to do a real-world film and take a whole camera crew to that location was costly, to put it mildly, especially these days, whereas to do it with Machinima was so much easier. And you've just mentioned, of course, that, the aspects of the global platform. There was a presentation not to do with Machinima yesterday, where we have proof positive, of schools in the UK here were interacting with students in a Japanese university, and they were online at agreed hours and just sort of cooperating fully. And of course, that is the promise. That sort of thing is the promise of virtual worlds. But recording all this via Machinima is very much part of it too. I'm thinking of almost, how would you say, diplomatic outreach and the meeting of cultures and things like that. It will probably never, ever happen in the real world. It happens in the virtual world, and making Machinima of that kind of thing, I think, adds so much weight to the importance of what it represents. Nova, any thoughts?
I really hope that it continues to grow the way it has been. I know I've been extremely fortunate bringing the message across to National Park Service and other national agencies that are involved with archaeology and public awareness. And through my clips, I try to open up the door so people can see what else is there and encourage their inquisitive side of the nature. And hopefully, I think I am doing just that, because I've gotten some really good reviews from my peers.
Very good news indeed. Bert?
Yes, I can see the future for the video, and especially for the Machinima, because they're actually predicting that in 2016, that 90%, internet traffic is going to be the video. So we are on the right track. So we actually make videos as tutorials for our students to learn and do the exercises and assessment tasks. So it's the real tool, and it's the best tool to actually pass the message. And the good news is my son, he's 12 now, and he's actually making videos as well, started to make tutorials, and he's got the YouTube channel as well. So that's the future.
Great. I've noticed a couple of questions coming in world here in Second Life, asking if people are typing into private chat. I don't think they are. You need to be listening on audio, or you can also see us. If you mute in world, you can also see us on the big screen behind with a slight delay. So I'm sure they'll look out for questions and chat to you if possible, but we're basically on voice for this session. Right. Having said that, I've completely lost track of where we were. I think I was about to come to you, Sandrine, on the future.
Actually, I think Machinima is not only just we are making videos, and for me, like this particular Machinima, it's like a documentary. I just report my students their teaching demonstration. My students, they just love it. They think they can learn a lot from this Machinima, and they also like to show other people that the possibility of this, not only virtual world, but also the Machinima. So, I really hope that the Machinima can continuously grow, and all of us, we hope.
Yeah, this is fascinating. For the most part, you are addressing your students and teaching your students, of course. And I quite like this idea that, that somebody's in the class and they finish their Machinima, and I don't know, they'll post it on YouTube, and then they'll send a link to all their friends saying, "Hey, look what I've done," you know, and it becomes viral in the way that the web and everything does these days. So I'm sure that's a very good thing. So well, actually, at this point, I've got I was going to open it up. We're coming through time quite quick. I was actually going to open it up and ask you individually, really, if you have any individual thoughts, both on the general machinima we've seen today, and on the state of machinima in general. So if you want to come in and so discuss with each other, that is fine by me. It saves me having to cue you individually, but I'll start with Nova again.
Oh my God, could you repeat the question?
Okay, I was going to ask you for, I suppose what I'm asking really is your personal observations, the hurdles in making what you made, and the impact of what you've made as well.
Well, I'll be very honest with you. This is probably the third time that I've ever attempted to do anything like this. And every time I do it, I go, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. But I have to be happy with what it ended up being. I could only say that next time it's going to be bigger and better. And I'll cross my fingers with that one.
I could jump in if you'd like.
Yes, do. Feel free.
My particular machinima, I made completely by myself. And I found it interesting to see if it was possible to do. I've made several with other people, and I would recommend making them with other people. But it is interesting that you can have multiple alts in at the same time. You can change your voice with voice changer. All the voices in there are mine. It's just amazing how much one person on a mission can do by themselves if they're determined. Which is good because, you know, sometimes in every class you'll have people who don't want to work in a group. Even though real life, you have to work in groups. Well, they don't want to. Well, if they want to take that on, it is possible.
You can tell me. I mean, we work with virtual television, and you know, there is always, you know, teams really make it because it's like real life. You know, you're making a film, and there's a whole lot of roles there, not just the actors, the directors, but all sorts of things to be done. But you'll always have somebody who wants to go off and do their own thing, and that's not necessarily a bad thing if they're clear about it. You know, they will achieve something working alone, which is very different from what they achieve working as part of a team. So. There's certainly pros and cons to both. How big a team did you have to pull in, Helen, for virtually, of course, for yours?
It's literally a cast of thousands, Mel. There are lots of people working on the team. It's part of a $500,000 project, so you can imagine to justify that kind of money. Not that the machinima cost that much to make, obviously, but it's part of a much larger project. So there was lots of small contributions from lots of people. We actually recorded the soundtrack quite separately. So we had special people there to do that. We actually took voice actors into a studio. So we had the avatar actors and then we had voice actors on top of that. So yeah, it was a huge team. And then we're doing an evaluation afterwards to see how sugarcane farmers, what they really thought of the machinima. And it's kind of really interesting. The things that they picked up on were not the sorts of things that we thought they would. For example, they thought that the farmers looked too buff and fit. They thought that the farmers should be more overweight and older. And we made similar machinima for Indian farmers, and same sorts of comments there. They thought the environment was too tidy and there was not enough paper and rubbish lying around. So it's kind of interesting what people choose to focus on.
It is, isn't it? I mean, that sort of surprises me for something that's so strictly on an educational tangent, as it were, that they're picking. I suppose it's the details of realism, isn't it? They're they would feel more comfortable if there was a whole lot of mess on the ground blowing in the wind and stuff like that.
Well, the Indian farmers in particular thought that the actors we used in the machinima were far too young and certainly would not have been farmers by that stage in their lives. So it was quite bizarre.
All right. So presumably you take all this feedback I presume there will be sequels, shall we say? And you'll be putting all this feedback into future ones?
Yeah, there will be sequels, and also we'll be using this machinima in different industries as well, or different types of farming. So perhaps wheat farming and other kinds of farming as well.
Great. Well, actually, this is actually quite interesting. The rest of you, have you actually had feedback on the finished results, as it were, that will influence your future direction?
For me, actually some of my students, they would like to reshoot the machinima because what we did was really just on time and one-time thing. Some of them, after they went home and they watched their own part, and they told me they would like to make this better, and they want to do this with me again. So they have the interest, and they, by the way, my students, they are master degree students, so they're not young, and they will not really love this kind of virtual world stuff, but through the whole virtual world experience, they have their way of thinking are totally different now. So,
Yeah, in my day, when you took a class, you sort of walked out of it saying, God, I don't want to take that one again. It's great when you've got the enthusiasm there, and it's sort of people are looking at their own work and realizing their mistakes and want to do it again. That's great. Do you get feedback, Bert, on if you've had much feedback or educative feedback on the clips?
Yes. So my case is actually quite opposite, because we use open source software solutions. I've seen some questions related to what kind of software, screen capture software you use, or audio recording software. Yes, we use open source, which is really affordable for anyone and for kids to actually make machinimas. So what we do, we actually make as we go, and it's easy to edit with another, again, open source software solution to adjust or, let's say, introduce new things or edit as we go. So as I said, kids are actually using the same tools, and they're actually making videos successfully. So that's the best, let's say, outcome. So we're actually passing the message to the younger generation to generate and start using their machine.
Very good. Yeah. So, well, Nova, any lessons learned by way of feedback and stuff from the clip? Or other clips as well, for that matter?
Everything I've heard so far from my peers is you need to do more of this and emphasize on that. Of course, they're not doing it. I'm the one that's doing it, but I'm so glad that they're there in my right-hand corner telling me what I should do better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we live and learn, and you know, even those of us who teach, you know, it's learning is a lifelong process. You've got to learn yourself to teach, haven't you? So, I always think feedback is a wonderful thing. So let me see. Have any of you anything particular you'd like to bring up here in general? Well, remember, our audience really is sort of fellow educators, so it'd be interesting to hear if you've got anything to address them with.
I think the major message that I'd like to give to people is don't be afraid to try to make a machinima. Don't be afraid to let your students try. And I did another presentation yesterday giving all sorts of links and gifts and ways for people to create machinimas themselves or help others create machinimas. Because every time I make a machinima and somebody looks at it, the most common feedback I get is, how did you do that? Can you teach me how to do that? So I've gotten much more into teaching people how to do it and collecting resources for them.
Well, that's great. The more the merrier, isn't it? Anyone else?
Yes, the video is the best tool, if I could say, today, which we are using for education. So you can actually extract frames and make images, and those images later on include in your document. So you can make PDFs as documents for teaching and for handouts as well. So we publish those documents, all of those pictures, which are extracted from the Machinima.
Yes. It used to be an old habit of mine. I don't do it anymore, but I used to pause the old-fashioned videotape on a freeze frame that I liked the look of and admired it, separate from its context in the film or whatever. Anyone else?
I would love to expand a little bit further than what I did. I would love to do something from the UK area or from any other area other than the East Coast USA. So I'm open for all prospects.
Excellent. So you can be in touch. We are based in Brisbane, Australia.
I was just going to say, we've got a global spread here, so that should be more than possible. We're based in the UK, in fact, so that's, as you mentioned, we're somewhere between Australia and California, I believe, sort of. Right, anyone else on that point, so to speak? Somebody else was coming in there, and I got two voices at once.
It was me. Yeah, I would like to say something about the Machinima is really a good way to promote the virtual world as well. When we are making Machinima and then we are showing that to people, and I also made a workshop, and I also encourage my students to go on different conferences to just share their experiences. So some of them, they are going to present in the VWBPE as well. It's just a way to show what we can do. And I don't know if only me or everyone in the world has the same feeling that sometimes I feel lonely because of other teachers around me. Maybe they are not so understand about the virtual world or teaching in a virtual world, this kind of thing. But when I'm using the Machinima, showing them how and what kind of things we can achieve, actually, I get more understanding from my peers. Yeah.
Yes, I mean that's really satisfying, isn't it? Achievement when, as you say, your colleagues come and are impressed, equally impressed.
Well, certainly anybody who's interested in working on Machinimas can send me, and I imagine any of these other presenters, a friend request, and would be willing to give some input. And I am particularly interested, since I'm in the United States, with working with people who are not in the United States, even if I have to stay up to wee hours of the morning.
It's usually us that stay up to the wee hours while you're in normal hours.
Yeah.
I hasten to add, but that's the beauty of it. You can get in touch with anybody in the world, really, even if you have to shift your time around a little bit to do it. I don't know whether any of you were, well, just a plug, I suppose. There are quite a few Machinima groups in the world here in Second Life, so groups people join that they're just concerned with helping each other out in Machinima. There's Mama Machinima, which was started by Chantal Harvey. There's an extended group where Lakic in Liberty has a group. So are any of you already active in any in-world groups?
I'm actually part of the ISPES, which is the educational group, but they have it's a conference and the Machinima part, so I'm part of that group.
I've done presentations for Machinima and was in the first group that ever made Machinimas with them. And as an outgrowth of that, there is a Machinima club connected to that. It's called the Machinima Creative Club.
Again, I don't want to plug myself, but I've actually been asked to host a monthly show. It's one of the LEA sims, I think. And the whole idea is we did a demo. We didn't film it, but we sort of test ran it. And it was rather odd because we were talking about Machinima on a set a bit like this. But I was scanning around the audience to see the avatars, and it was packed out. But I think every single avatar in there was another Machinima maker. So it was actually a great thing. It wasn't like this where we're addressing a general audience and trying to tell them about Machinima. The entire audience, and it was sizable, were actually Machinima makers. And you really get a buzz off that because the fellow creators in your field give you the right kind of feedback. It's their business too. So I think it's really worth checking out some of the groups. When we're finished here, if any of you want, I'll try and dig up my groups list, and you can contact me, and I'll let you know of any groups that might interest you. So feel free to do that. Sorry, Bert. Oh, Bert, were you trying to say something?
No, all good. No.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I was getting radio waves as if you were trying to interject there. I don't know whether any of you saw yesterday, there was a very nice presentation about a Machinima series that somebody's done called The Black and Mirror. And they actually, it's probably worth you watching on replay if you didn't, because they went through the whole mechanics and the structure from beginning to end, really, of creating this thing. And it was interesting because it's a sort of adventure, so there were sort of plot threads and mysteries you had to follow on the web and prizes you had to find in worlds. So it was a very sort of integrated project, but it was very interesting because they went through everything from the preliminary stages, working out the scripts and putting different people in, and techniques of voice acting and movement and stuff like that. Did any of you see that by any chance? Or you weren't here? I think it was quite early in the proceedings, so it's certainly one you might want to catch up on.
Yes, please.
I was too busy getting ready for my presentation.
I'm sorry?
I was too busy getting ready for my presentation.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's a common thing here. Oh, yeah, I'll be in when it's my presentation. I'm too busy preparing it at the last minute. Okay, well, we've still got now 25 minutes if we've got much else to discuss, but the things I had noted to sort of seem to have actually run out. Anything you'd like to ask each other? Having seen each other's Machinima and whatever.
I don't have a question right now, but you mentioned something that I would like to add my support to. The LEA location with the Machinima Open Studio project is a fantastic place for machinists to go to create machinimas. So again, along the theme of don't be afraid to make your own, you can go there and use their sets, and they have a wide variety. And you can also, unlike at most sims, you can put down your own additional props that they allow you to res things there to use in your film.
That is invaluable. Actually, I've been there, and it's basically a sandbox for making machinima. And I know a few machinima makers who've got their own sims, and they wipe them clean. And when they want to build a machinima, or make a machinima, I should say, they actually build their whole sim and all the props and everything into it. But a lot of people can't afford to do that. And the LEA project Barbara mentions is a really worthy thing, because you've got professional machinima makers who've actually resed what we call sets for you. In other words, all the props and all the things you might need are there. And it's divided up into lots of different environments, so it's not all one mood or anything like that. And it's all totally free. You can just walk in there and use all their props and their locations, and as Barbara says, res your own props for things you're working on. So if any of you out there are saying, oh, I'd love to get involved with this, but where do I go to do it? This may well be your solution. They're doing a very good job. And LEA stands for Linden Endowment of the Arts. So it's a whole group of sims for the exhibitions and basically supported by Linden Lab. So very, very worthy venture that, if you need it.
Yeah, hats off to Linden Labs for supporting that. Sometimes I get irritated with Linden Labs, but boy, they got my brownie points for me for that one.
Yeah. Tell me, do you think they're going to get a lot of educators coming back running in here now they've halved the prices again? I mean, I know a couple of you use OpenSim. Do you feel they're tempting you back, or is it really just tokenism?
Well, how much trouble can I get into for saying this on air?
Go for it. Go for it. So long as it's general certificate, shall we say? No, do say, please.
Well, I'm only speaking for my department from my university. But we were really very, very discouraged with the way that they handled the contract and the problems and the issues. And I would say with clear conscience that our university will not come back to Second Life.
When the news was announced, I was reading it here and I mentioned it to my partner, and they immediately, the first reaction she said was sort of, yeah, great timing, right in the middle of the financial year, when you're plotting your agenda and finances for the next year, there was a far better time they could have come up with this than right now. And, once you go to OpenSim and you're established, you look back and you wonder, well, is it worth it? But we'll see. I'm sure they'll get a few takers for the discount, but maybe non-profits rather than educators, who want the public forum of Second Life rather than the workspace of OpenSim.
I hope other people come back.
The only thing that I can say that I truly miss from the Second Life platform is I had a lot of visitors. On the OpenSim, I don't get as many visitors, but I'm still a happy camper over there.
And you have the hypergroup visitors, I take it, if they know your address and want to come over.
So we choose OpenSim for another reason, because we wanted to make a secure and safe environment for our students, which are, let's say, kids, high school students. So we decided to actually host on our own, let's say, secure and safe place, and it's the OpenSim platform. So that's another, let's say, issue which we have a solution for.
It's the idea of a safe place is part of the problem. And if educators go to other places because they want to be in a safer place, then there'll be less and less educators here. I'd rather see the movement come back here so that when I send my students out on a people scavenger hunt to talk to people, there are other students there and other teachers and other classes, not just some of these more shady, I don't know, different interest groups that are scantily clad or whatever.
Exactly, or various animals and weapons and what have you.
Right.
It's I mean, the hypergrid has a lot of potential here in connecting the OpenSims, and I know that, for example, we're broadcasting one session for the conference tomorrow, which is over on Jacadia Grid, which is a very popular home for educators. And they recently actually shut off the hypergrid for security reasons, but for something like this, they were able to bring it back on. So it's obviously quite adaptable. If you need a closed space that is private or just for your students, especially if they're underage, for example, you can do it. But then if you want to put on a public event, you can open it up to the hypergrid. So I think that's very promising. And something you really can't do in Second Life is create a very secure lockdown area. Well, you can, but it's not thoroughly workable.
Can I ask if anyone's using Jibe here?
Jibe, this is Reaction Grid's platform, yeah?
No, it's a separate platform based on Unity 3D.
Oh, yeah, it is actually. Reaction Grid, who used to be an open sim, they're no longer, well, they do host Joycado, I believe, I'm not sure, but they basically put all their energies into Unity 3D, and they call it Jibe, and that's been mentioned. It's been mentioned a couple of times at this conference, actually, as a useful space. I actually have the app for it, but the app only seems to load a single sim, but there's nobody ever in.
Yeah.
Unity, I imagine. I mean, you're all machinima makers. I'm quite curious. Have any of you used Unity 3D based things like Jive? Or just you have, I presume, Helen, have you?
Not for Machinima, Mel. We're trialing it for something else because it actually uses a lot less bandwidth than Second Life, and you don't have the same firewall issues as you do with Second Life. So to complement Machinima, what we're going to do is have shed meetings for farmers so that they can, like normally in the real world or meat space, they would come together, discuss an issue or look at a piece of machinery or a particular insect pest or something like that, and do that in the real world. If they're, very remote or can't afford to get away or whatever, we're thinking of bringing them together in a virtual space, and Jibe is the space that we're going to try for that, just because there seems to be less of a learning curve for users, a huge learning curve for developers, I think.
Yeah, yes, unfortunately, yes.
And yeah, it just requires much less bandwidth. So we thought it might be quite good for farmers.
I think there was.
Good point.
Sorry, Bert, carry on.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, yes, the Unity is the future, but the issue with the Unity is it's still small community of developers who can actually help the education and educators to be able to make those, let's say, learning tools and assessment tools. So we still use Second Life scripts, which are applicable and usable in OpenStream on OpenStream platforms. So we still use OpenStream for that reason, because we have so many scripts, so many objects, so many things which we can reuse and use again.
Right. I believe that originally part of this conference was going to have some presentations from Unity. I mean, it's I actually see them as very valuable immersive spaces, should we say. If you know what you want to create a space and just bring people in, I mean, it's probably as good as having a single sim on OpenSim. But there's something lacking. It's not, to me, a virtual world, because you can't just teleport from one Unity space to another. They're not interconnected. They're very much exhibits. And I can see great potential for that. And also I can see great potential for sending people to web pages with a Unity plugin and getting them familiar with virtual environments. But I think, unlike OpenSim, I think there's something rather missing in the, the communication side of it, the idea of a extended grid, but that's probably just me.
I think
right.
probably
Yes,
some of the same issues. Sorry.
Helen?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Some of the same issues with Kitely, I would think. Can I also just mention, there's a really patient audience member who would like us to speak about the tools we use for making machinima. And they've posed that question a number of times. So if we get a chance, we probably should answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to raise that.
Yeah, very good. Let's go straight to that. I've been monitoring the channel for questions rather than here, so that's a bit silly. Yes, okay. Well, let's go around the table then, because I'm sure you're all different. Let's start with Sandrine. What tools do you use?
Because my I try to promote, so I try to use everything in very cheap way, and so I use the there is a software called what was that? BD Flashback Express Record, and then that is one very lightweight and easy to use software. I use that for screen recording. And I use Ghost Wave for sound editing. And in the old time, I was just using Microsoft Movie Maker to make my machinima. And this time, I was just having fun, and I was using Premiere. So yeah, these are the software I use, and they can be very easy and cheap to do. Yeah.
Bert.
Oh, that's excellent question, because I actually use only three things. The first one is to get a screen capture, which is the software name with the name Screen Capture from Extension Soft. And the other one, it's a free one. So the other one is Audacity for audio adjustment or audio, let's say, recording and editing. Again, open source and free one. And the last one is built into the Windows, which Sandrine mentioned. It's just a movie maker from Windows 7. So only those three things, and kids can actually do it. So kids are actually using the same tools as well.
Okay. Helen. What tools?
I'm a complete failure as a panel member here, Mel, because I have no idea.
I don't think so.
What I did use when I used to make the machinima myself, I used to use Fraps for screen capture, but that would be it. I'm not sure what tools were you actually using for making this machinima, but if anyone wants to contact me separately, I'm willing. I'll ask our machinima makers what they do use. You can also contact me. We've got a poster about this project as well, so my contact details are on that poster if you want to track me down that way as well.
Great. Barbara, what tools do you use?
I'm pretty much a Camtasia user, right? Because I don't have to use a bunch of things. I can use it to capture sound, play with sound, alter it. I can use it to capture video. I can do the editing on it. It's just you can do everything with one piece of software, so I don't have to keep learning and manipulating different things. And the other thing that I use a lot is a space navigator.
Oh,
which
yes,
is,
yeah.
You know, it just helps me get smoother footage.
The one time I tried using that, I didn't know where I was. But I don't need to use it very often. Nova, what tools do you use?
I was using video screen capture along with the Windows Movie Maker, and so far I've had great results, so I'm not going to switch to anything yet.
Fair enough. Yeah. Are you? It's interesting. Of course, the tools available to people tend to. It's if a machinima at least do tend to differ on the different platforms, whether you're on a Mac or Windows. Do you all work on Windows, or have we got Mac users here?
I'm Windows.
I'm Windows.
I'm Windows.
Windows.
I think that was a resounding thumbs up for Windows. One reason or another. Yeah, I'll actually interject here, just since the question was asked. I should stress I'm not a machinima maker. I probably will one day try and do something, but it's a matter of time. But I do frequently make very short clips when I'm on the spot in Word or something that can be interjected into news or something like that. For screen capture, there are two programs available for free on the web. I mean, many people use Fraps, but the free version of Fraps has a logo on it, as you probably know. There is a program called Bandicam, BANDICAM, and there's another new one I've been using extensively recently called OCam, just O, letter O, cam. And both of these allow you, they do allow you to capture high resolution, but they encode directly to MP4 format, which is a compressed format. That means that if you drop it into an editor later, you might lose some quality, but they're very quick and easy for screen capture, if any of you want to check those out. And yeah, Audacity I find is very good for sound. In fact, I don't really think I use anything else for sound other than Audacity. And there is a site on the web, I might as well plug it because it's nothing to gain. It's called giveawayoftheday.com, and they have an RSS feed, and they're obviously pitched to home video makers, not specifically, you know, they offer drive cleaning utilities and stuff like that. But if you subscribe to their feed, you do quite often find a lot of sort of free miner software that will do certain tasks for you extremely well and extremely fast. For example, I've got a widget that will load an MP4. It will crop off the beginning I don't want, it will crop off the end I don't want, and then it will re-encode it with almost, well, it doesn't re-encode it, it somehow crops without re-encoding. So, you know, it's just a minor editing tool, but you can fire it up at the moment's notice, for example. And that site, giveawayoftheday.com, does actually produce, you know, maybe once or twice every 3 or 4 weeks. There's something of good use, I think, to filmers and machinima makers all round. Right, I'm just going to pull up my little in-world window here, and I thought I actually did see another question a while back, but I've actually forgotten what it was. If anybody does have questions before we sort of close the panel, maybe you'd like to type them into chat now, and I'll keep an eager eye on them before before we wish. Oh yeah, techsmith.com for Camtasia. Camtasia I haven't used for a while, but yes, I do remember that was a very good. It's actually a suite of different programs that do different things, so it's a kind of all-purpose tool, as it were.
Well, I think you can get the separate. I only got the filming part of it, and if anybody wants to learn to use it or teach their students to use it, I've actually made some machinimas on how to make machinimas using Camtasia.
Oh, wonderful.
I have a YouTube channel, and those are in there. So if you type my name, Barbara McQueen, in YouTube, you'll get to those machinimas.
My wonderful studio, well, cameraman at the moment, but owner of Metaverse TV has just come into the background and recommended Fraps very highly. He says it's the highest quality for uncompressed video, basically. So if you need a really good master copy, he recommends Fraps. And I think I'd agree. You know, I don't think it costs much, and even the free version, you can always crop the logo off if you want to be naughty. And obviously QuickTime on the Mac too. That isn't free, but on the Mac it's sort of the equivalent of Fraps to give you, you know, uncompressed QuickTime format over there, so to speak. And I think that is a crucial point to make. If people want to film footage to literally compile and produce a machinima later, then you really need to make sure you're not going with a simple screen capture program. You really do need to capture full frames. So you've got a real high quality master copy to drop into an editor at a later point to get what you want. So it's different strokes for different folks, really. You know, if you want a screen capture, you can do it really quick. But if you want high definition video, there's a bit more to take into account. Right. Well, remarkably, we now have run out of time. I didn't think we were going to. I was sitting here thinking, what else can we talk about? But we've actually caught up on our time now. So I'd like to thank everybody here again for joining the panel. Firstly, Sandrine, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. And thank you. I see a lot of great machinima today, and yeah, I'm really happy. Thanks.
Right, it's our pleasure. And thank you, Bert.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much for being such a great host and giving this opportunity to machinima makers and directors to present our stuff.
I'm not going to say our pleasure again. I've said it once, but it is. It genuinely is. And thank you to Nova Saunders.
Thank you so much for the time and all the patience that everyone from this committee has helped me out with this process of getting here. It was really a great experience.
Wonderful. And thank you, Barbara Novelli.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. See, I use that word too.
Yeah, I know. We'll forward to it. And thank you to Helen Frack as well. Thank you, Helen.
Thanks, Mel. And I'd urge everyone to go and look at our poster in the poster area, and you can visit with the dog who was the star of the machinima, in my opinion.
Oh, yay. I'll have to morph back into my pussycat and go and meow at the barking thing. Yeah, I know that one. Right. Okay. Well, it's been absolutely wonderful to have you here. We don't know what will happen, but I'll just have to say I wish all 5 of you the best of luck for the award on Saturday. One of you is going to get it, but we don't know who, do we? So good luck to all of you. Thank you for being here, and I'm actually going to yell out to our channel operators to move on to the next bit of programming on the channel, and we'll see you all again soon. Thank you again.